using the compare to method and then write our own compare to method. Very exciting. So you know, you're a little bit familiar with using compare to. You can use compare to compare two strings to each other. And compare to returns an integer value, and that integer value is less than 0. In other words, it's negative if this string is less than other string. Less than, of course, means closer to A alphabetically. You get a value of 0 if the two strings are equal to each other, and you get a value greater than 0. In other words, you get a positive value if this string is greater than, or in other words, comes after the other string alphabetically. I know that compare to is always a little confusing, so here's an example underneath. I have a string called apple, A, apple, B, banana, and if I say system.out.println A, in other words, apple.compare to B less than 0, this should write true because apple compared to banana should give me a negative value because apple is less than banana, or another way of saying it is apple comes before banana alphabetically, so I will get a negative value. So yes, it is less than 0. If I do it the other way around, banana.compare to apple, this should give me a value greater than 0 because banana comes after apple, so this should give me a false right here. And typically you use compare to within an if statement like this. I might say something like, if A compared to B is less than 0, which it is because apple comes before banana alphabetically, then do something. In this case, I'm just writing out apple comes before banana. I know I'm going through this quick. This might be something you want to review. You know, using compare to is a little tricky, but it's something that you're going to have to know how to use. So, oh, I think I ran the wrong thing there. Let me run using compare to. Okay. Okie dokie. So in fact, yes, I got true, false, apple comes before banana. Remember? True, false, apple comes before banana. All right, I ran the right thing. Terrific. So let's look at another example of where compare to is used, and I already gave you a sneak peek of that. I ran that just a moment ago. So here I've made an array of string objects called animals. Here are the animals I have listed. They're a bunch of strings, of course, and I'm just going to print them out before sorting. These are not sorted. In other words, they're not alphabetically arranged. I'm just printing them out here. And then I'm going to use the built-in sorting function. Wow, Java has a built-in sorting function. Yes, the array class, the arrays class, I should say, has a sort method, and it will sort any array that you pass it as long as the objects in that array have a compare to method. So, in other words, and the objects in the animals array are strings, and strings do have a compare to method. They implement this interface called comparable. More about that in a minute. But so here I'm sorting this array alphabetically, and then I'm going to print it out after sorting. And I already ran this a moment ago. You already saw this thing run. And in fact, it's very exciting. Here we go. Here they are before I sorted chicken, kangaroo, wombat, bird, and then after sorting bird, chicken, kangaroo, wombat. That's great. Yeah, and I'm giving you a this program as an example. In the link underneath this video, you'll be able to check out this program if I'm going too quick. Okay, so we are now going to write our own compare to method. So and you can write a compare to method for any object. Here I have a person object, and I want to write a method which will compare two people. That's it. So a person, of course, I made this real simple. A person has a first name, a last name, and an age. This is the constructor. This is the toString. And I'm writing my own compare to method. It returns an integer. And this is it has to be very specific here. A compare to method must take an object. In this case, I'm calling this another person. But notice this is object. It doesn't say person here because compare to is intended to compare any two types of objects. It doesn't have to be person objects. So inside of this, I'm trying to compare my people by age, so I'm saying this age minus another person's age, and notice I'm casting another person to a person. Because another person is really an object, I have to downcast it to a person to get its age. Hopefully that makes some sense. When you write your own compare-to method, you have to have this method signature, and then inside of it you have to cast that other thing to whatever type of object you're working with. The other thing that you may have noticed here is I am implementing the comparable interface. Yes, there's an interface called comparable, and that interface comparable has only one method that you must implement. Remember, when you implement an interface, you must provide implementation for all of the methods in that interface. Well, the comparable interface only requires that you implement this one method called compare-to. And you must do this in order to use, in my example here, in order to use the sort method. So I'm implementing the comparable interface, implements comparable, and here I am actually providing implementation for that. So if I run this, actually let's look at the people thing here first. I have created an array of person objects. Here are my people. Art Vandelay. If you're a Seinfeld fan, you might know this. I don't know, Carl Farman, Joe Davola, whatever. These are my people, and these are their various ages. And then I'm going to print them out before sorting. And then I'm just like I did with the strings, I'm going to sort this array, and I'm passing the array to the sort method, persons. And you're thinking, well, how does the sort method know how to sort persons? Well, it knows because I have written a compare-to method in persons. So the sort method knows how to work as long as the object inside of the array has a compare-to method. And so here I'm going to print it out after sorting, and I'll run this real quick, and you'll see that in fact we'll sort it successfully. If I run this guy, let's see, remember it's sorting by ages, so here they are with unsorted ages, and here they are with their ages sorted. Okay, and there you have it. So in the project that you're working on, actually let me go back to people, you're going to be working on a project which is sorting presidents, and you have to implement a couple of methods. You're going to implement the toString method, and then you have to implement the compare-to method. Make sure that you do this casting person, or well, in this case, for the project, it's going to be president, so you're going to have to be casting whatever this variable is to a president object before you use it. By the way, just one last thing quick here. What if I wanted to sort, instead of by age, what if I wanted to sort by first name? Well, I could certainly do that. I could say this, now what's the first name called? First name, okay, and that's this guy's first name. Now, how do I get the other guy's first name? Well, it's just another person dot first name. Now this next thing is going to seem a little weird. I can't, these are strings, so how do I return a negative or positive value of strings? Well, I'm going to use the compare-to method of strings. So I'm going to say this dot first name dot compare-to, and then in parentheses, I know I got a lot of parentheses here. So this seems a little weird, but this compare-to is not, there's not going to be a conflict here. I'm not running this compare-to method. I'm running the compare-to method on first name, which is a string. So I'm doing the compare-to method on strings, not on persons, if that makes any sense at all. So let me compile this. Hopefully this does make sense, and I'll run this guy again, and you will see that, in fact, my list of people now before sorting, well, it was almost alphabetical. Art, Carl, Dr. Van Ostrin, Joe Davola, Izzy, Jackie, and is it now, let's see, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, yeah. So it is now, it wasn't quite sorted alphabetically. It's now sorted alphabetically by first name. And let's just take one more quick peek at this. So what I'm doing now is I'm getting the first name of this object, which is a string, and the first name of another person object, which is a string, and I'm running the compare_to method. I'm using the compare_to method on strings. And so this is going to return a negative or positive value, or 0 if the first names are the same. And that is now going to get returned from the compare_to method in this class, which is the person class. So it's a little weird, but I'm running the compare_to method on strings here. And I'm using that inside of this compare_to method for these objects. So hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully that's enough to get going on your project. All right.